Yes.
Okay. Just, just give me 1 minute. I'm just setting up a few things. HDMI cable connected. So while we start, I'll just give you. Okay, guys. So we'll start. Last week, we talked about different processes like Scrum methodology, Agile, and CMMI, and then we also seen what are the different work items types that we have. That is epic, feature, user story, task, bugs, etc. Okay, and also we talked about what they are exactly like the parent-child relationships of these different work items. And then we created a simple Azure DevOps project using a Scrum template. And then today we will look into differences between these different Scrum templates. The project templates, and then we also talk about Scrum template and how Scrum works, and then we'll go ahead and start the work item creations in Azure course. Just give me a minute before I start this. So let's understand what are different differences between work item types across Scrum template, Agile template, and CMMI. We just talked about it in the last session. First, let's have a deep dive, and then we'll get into the other items. No, that's okay. 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 So if you see the Scrum template, right? So you have the things like epic feature and product backlog item, task, test case, and bugs. These are the items. And if you see the Agile template, right? You will have most of the things. You see the bugs and you have the epic feature, task, and the only difference here you see is there is a user story at the bottom of this block, but the same thing is termed as a product backlog item in Scrum. So this is the difference. Okay. Rest of the things, the naming convention is same actually. Okay. So I just wanted to show the differences between these areas. So for each and every item you see in Scrum template, other template will have a relevant item in other project management template as well. Okay. And then you have the CMMI. CMMI is a huge list of work item types because this is the very oldest methodology, because you see, right, CMMI level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And now we have a SCMMI as well. So these are the global standards at the organization level. Before this Scrum and all these things evolved, we were using a CMMI, because when you say CMMI, right, you have the change management process as well as part of the CMMI level processes. So that has some different set of, a different way of working style. So they will go to some change management process and take the requirements and work on it, and then do bug fixes, etc. This is how it works. But it is simplified in agile way of working actually. You see, you have a lesser worker items, because when you use agile management or agile templates or Scrum, so in agile you have different types of project methodologies, like extreme programming, Scrum, and there are some other project management methodologies, but we use Scrum mostly. So it is simplified here. Okay, let's not get into change management into day-to-day Scrum activities, because the moment you bring all these change management activities into your Scrum activities, you will be spending more time in meetings in terms of change management meetings or release management meetings, and less time on the actual work actually. That's why it's been separated from the agile methodologies. So if you see, it has many things here. You have the change request, and there are things like risk, and then you have issues. These are additional things, because when you are doing the change management, why you are doing, you want to understand why you are doing it, and what is the risk that is involved in executing something, how you mitigate it. These are all the things that you discuss in a change management meetings. Most of the times developers may not be involved, but project managers or leads or infrastructure people, they involved in the change management process, because they are responsible. So these are the different things and differences between different items. And basic template, we see there is nothing, because it's just like blank template. It doesn't contain any process or anything. If any organization, they don't have any methodology in place, they just want to use DevOps, they don't want to get into all these project planning or sprint planning and etc., then they don't need to configure all these things, right? Why to waste the time? That's why Microsoft has given that feature as well, basic. Just create your work item or the requirement and go ahead with the development. Don't follow anything. So these are the flexibilities given by Microsoft, and these are the templates that you use when you are creating your Azure DevOps project. So we are using Scrum template. That means throughout the Azure boards or throughout the pipelines, wherever you go, we see only these things: epic features, and then product backlog items, tasks. These are the four things that are related to the developers, and test case and bugs are related to the testers. Okay, we will see all these things as part of our Azure boards. Okay, before getting into the Azure boards, creating work items and planning sprints and defining the capacity, right? There are many people on the call are here who did not know much about Scrum. So I just wanted to cover all the people, because we have different audience. Okay. So guys, if you already know Scrum, if you're already working on Scrum, please excuse me for 5 minutes, because you may get bored. Okay. So how does Scrum work basically? So it starts with you have different roles in Scrum methodology, that is a product owner and Scrum master and team member. So in general, if you are not doing the Scrum, right, you will call it with different names. These guys are testers, these guys are developers, these guys are release engineers. This is how we speak. But if you are really working on a Scrum methodology, and if you are really implementing 100%, people don't call like this. Everybody is a team member, be it a developer or tester or anything. Their roles are different, but everybody will be called as a team member. And the Scrum Master, who is like a project manager, he liaises between different people, and if there are any issues, the issues can be starting from your requirements management, or getting your laptop or mouse, etc. That also comes under the Scrum Master. He has to facilitate you basically. He has to ensure that all the team members in the team are doing their work, and all the additional things like software installations or collaboration between the people or meeting schedules, everything has to be taken care by the Scrum Master. or any issues between the teams also has to be taken care by the Scrum Master. That's the role he is meant for, but generally it doesn't happen. But if you work in a bigger companies like Microsoft, Google, they follow it very strictly, and they don't allow team member to argue with anyone. It's a responsibility of the Scrum Master to sort it out, whatever is the case. And you don't raise a request for a mouse, a request for some software installation. You tell the Scrum Master, he will understand as part of the Scrum meetings, and then he will raise on behalf of you. Product owner, he wants the product or he wants the application requirements. He is the person who works with the business owners or the whoever is sponsoring. He understands the requirements, he creates the requirements, and he elaborates the requirements. And he will be, if it is a complex engagement, probably he will have some other people working with him, let us say business analyst. You call them as a functional managers in Scrum areas, but they are not the actual roles in Scrum methodology. But it depends on the type of the engagement, complexity of the engagement. People introduce more people, but they don't. You don't see those roles as part of your methodology. So these are the different roles that you have in Scrum methodology. So how it works? It all starts with requirements, right? So you call it as a product backlog. So the product owner will create a product backlog. So when we say product backlog, it can be application backlog as well. Okay, but whether it is a product or application or utility, you call it as a product backlog. This is a standard terminology. This product backlog will contain all, let us say, in order to finish your e-commerce portal, you might have some 1,000 features. All those 1,000 features are part of your product backlog. Backlog is nothing but list of items. You create one list and then you add all these items to that list. So that's called a product backlog. Now, the management already estimated something, okay, saying that, okay, this project should be completed in 4 months. And 4 months means we take sprint duration as 2 weeks. That means you will have 8 sprints for this project to be completed. So how you do in Scrum methodology? We will not go ahead and take all the features and develop it and push it to the QA production environments. Right? You have to take the requirements as per the available capacity, means available developers, testers, and other people for that sprint. Because people will keep coming and going out, right? Let us say I have 4 people in the current sprint availability. I mean, as a developer, then I can take probably 4 features. Each developer will work on some features. So just an example. So all these things will happen as part of your sprint planning. Okay. So first, as part of sprint planning, you will estimate, okay, I have 4 developers and these 4 developers working for 8 hours per day for these two weeks. Okay, this is the capacity I have. Now, out of 1,000 requirements I have, I can take only 10 requirements because this is my capacity. Because these 10 requirements will take 100 hours and my 4 people will have the 100 hours capacity. So that's how I estimate. This is a team, basically this is a team meeting. No one will put some pressure on the other people. If they are doing it, that means that's not a Scrum methodology. Because as an individual, we have our own capacities or strengths, right? You might do it in 2 hours, I may do it in 1 hour. It's because of the experience level or the skills level. So as part of Scrum, right, they have to consider all these things, and this is how it works as well. So you do all these things in sprint planning, then what are the outcomes of sprint planning? The requirements that you are going to implement in the sprint, and who is working on what, and how many hours you are spending on each requirement. So these are the outcomes of your sprint planning, and it happens for each and every sprint. Okay, and then what happens? Now you planned it. Now you need to progress with the development, right? So I have a superset of requirement that is in product backlog. Now I plan that these 10 features will be implemented in this sprint one. Now I have to create a backlog for that sprint. That we call it as a sprint backlog. So what I do, I have this list of items. I create the sprints. I simply move these 10 items to that sprint. I don't need to recreate again because I already created. I just need to move between or across the sprints. So this is called a sprint backlog. So you have a product backlog and sprint backlog. You remember this terminology when you are using it, okay? And then what happens? You see that circle, right? The sprint circle. So this happens in a repeated way. Every day it happens, right? Every day you will have the daily scrum. Basically it is a maximum, it should be a 15 minutes, but we go with a 1 hour as well. So we do 15 minutes all. So there might be some, for some teams, right, where you will have 30 members, 40 members as well. What they do, what they have to do, they have to divide the people into smaller teams, because if 30 people are talking, what happens, even if they take 1 minute also, it takes 30 minutes. So that's where people spend more time. But if you're the funda here, you should not go more than 15 minutes. Then you have to divide the teams. Then you will be able to finish it in 15 minutes. But we will not do like that actually. But bigger clients or the techie clients, they do it. They divide the people and then assign some team leads, because this is virtual. This is not on paper. This is only to streamline your process. Okay, and then they will finish it in 15 minutes. Some meetings will even close in 5 minutes as well. Okay, so you do the daily scrums like this to understand what you have done yesterday, what you do today, and what you will do tomorrow. And if there are any issues, you only mention the issue, but you don't solve it in a meeting. You finish the meeting and you go and solve it. That's the purpose of your daily scrum. And you do your coding or designing, whatever it is for that day. And it repeats for the entire sprint and each and every sprint. And then what happens? Uh, you are doing work every day, right? So for 2 weeks, you have 80 hours of capacity, okay? And every day you are working for 8 hours. So when you are using Scrum methodology, you have to go and enter your efforts in your, Azure boards, whatever is the tool you are using. That means today you work for 8 hours, you will enter 8 hours. What is the remaining effort? It will be 72 hours. So you need to do these things, otherwise you will not know how much time is left for you. Okay, but generally what they do, they keep the hours what they spend, but they don't give the actual hours. Let us say I spent 8 hours. 8 hours of work should have been completed, but because of some issues or because of some additional dependencies, I couldn't finish that task. I probably finished half of my task. Though I spent 8 hours per day, but actual effort or the task completed is 4 hours. Actually, you should be keeping 4 hours there, but we will keep it 8 hours. Then you never see the burn down chart. Burn down chart means initially you will have 80 hours, and your line is always in straight line from top to bottom. Basically, it will go like this, like an X-ray or some cardiac stuff, right? Scanning stuff, right? It will come like that because you are keeping always 8 hours, but you should be keeping the actual hours. So let us say if I keep only 4 hours today, and you will mention all these issues in your description, whatever it is actually, to convey to the manager. Then your team or manager will come to know, okay, this guy couldn't finish this task yesterday because of so many so reasons. So he can or someone can help, but in reality, it never happens. That's where you will miss your deadlines, though you are using Scrum methodology. The whole idea of Scrum methodology, you should not run into troubles. Every day you have to tell your troubles and get it resolved and then move ahead. So you keep the actual effort there rather than the time spent actually. It will never happen. Of course, these are the standards. It will never happen. Just for your information. Okay. And then at the end of the sprint, right, you have the sprint retrospection. That means once you do the build and releases to the environments, you will do some introspection or retrospection, whatever you call it. And you discuss, what happened in the sprint, what went wrong, what went well. And then people say, okay, these are the lessons learned, and then do not repeat it in the next sprint. Of course, it will repeat. This will come. So this is the standard. People follow the process, but they don't implement it actually. So this is how your Scrum process work actually. And you see there is a task boards, because in every organization you see some whiteboards where people attach some sticky notes saying that, okay, this guy is working on this one. Today the requirement one is in progress, requirement two not started, requirement three completed. What they have to do? they have to keep moving those sticky notes to different blocks. But we have different workflow statuses, right? Only the first day you will keep the sticky notes. From the next day, you will not move that. It will be there forever. This is only for taking some screenshots and putting into the some documentation, right? So since you are having all these operational issues, right? That's where these tools came into picture actually, because people don't do it manually. Then tools like Jira or Azure DevOps or you have tools from CA and many other vendors, IBM, all these vendors. So these guys, what they do, they make it mandatory to enter the details into the system, not on the board. Okay, you can have it on the board, but you have to have it in the system. So because you have to move it there, because what they do, you have to enable notifications every day, to the top management about the progress, etc. Of course, still people can suppress that. Instead of daily notification, people send it bi-weekly notification so that they can hide the problems that are happening. But this will kill the productivity. It will not happen in Amazon or Google or Microsoft or bigger tech client. It will not happen. They do it 100% correctly. That means what I mean. Even I work for Microsoft. So let us say we started a sprint, right? So I took two requirements, and I'm in the middle of the sprint actually. Let us say some management guy comes and says, "Hey, I want to add this requirement also to this one. I want this to be completed with the same deadline." Will it happen? It will not happen. This guy will say, "Okay, you have to stretch and close it." This will happen in companies where they don't follow Scrum. But if you follow the companies like these bigger, they do not accept. They simply say like this, okay, this guy is working on two requirements and you are giving another requirement. Let me see if I take out one requirement out and keep this here. If the guy says, no, you have to take this additional, they say no. That's for sure actually. And there is no stretch, there is nothing like that. You are stretching because you don't have the skill, but it's not because of the effort actually. So that's how it happens there. And sometimes they don't even accept the requirement, the additional requirement, because they already spent 8 days. You only have the 2 days to go to the release. They don't even accept it. So when you work with perfection using Scrum, right, no one will get into trouble. But we don't follow it. That's why we keep taking the requirements and stretching overnights. And obviously, when we stretch, we can't finish it, and it will extend actually. So this is how we were Scrum, and you need to remember these things. Product backlog and sprint planning, because we do all these configurations as part of our Azure course. So first we create a product backlog and we do the sprint planning, whatever we discussed, and we create a sprint backlog, and then we do the, of course we don't do the daily sprints because it's all about entering a course or making the changes. We will just show for once and then we leave it actually. And then we do the sprint review. Of course we don't do it, okay, but we will be talking about builds and releases, right? We will talk about it. So some issues that we call it as a retrospection, and then task boards, etc. That you will see in the Azure boards now itself. So that's about Scrum, how it works. Let's get into some actual work patterns creation using Scrum. Let me minimize this. So I already logged into my portal.azure.com, and I'll go to my Azure DevOps, and I'll go to my Azure DevOps organization. And then I have different organizations with me. So yesterday we created an organization called Azure DevOps. Just give me a sec, guys. Let me. Is it not changing there? No. Okay, guys, my screen is not refreshing. Just give me a second. Is it okay now? Okay. So this is the organization that I'm using, Azure DevOps ATM session. Let's get into this organization. This is nothing but my vertical. And then we created a project with Scrum template yesterday, that is 8 a.m. Oh, this is not we created? Okay, sorry. I keep forgetting these things. 8 a.m. demo. Let me check what is the type here. I can go to project settings and then say, okay, this is of Scrum type actually. Okay. Then let's go to the project. So first you have to do the planning. So you have to create a work items. So as I explained, we have to start with epics, and then the next level is feature, and then next level is a product backlog item. Now we don't call user stories. Let's use a term called product backlog item, and then we create a task where the developer will take and work on it actually. Okay. In reality, DevOps engineer will not be creating all these things, but he will give access to the different stakeholders. He gives access to the project managers, he gives access to the developers, etc. So you're only giving access to the people, because the product owner or the project manager will be entering all these details in Azure Boards. He creates the work items and he will assign it to the people as part of the sprint planning, etc. So first, let's go and create some work item. So if you go to the boards, and then you can see, basically we will be working on all these different categories here: work items, boards, backlogs, sprints, and queries. Queries is nothing but it's just like your select queries or whatever it is you are using in your database. You will pull the some data, right, for the reporting purpose. So you will have the similar queries here, but of course you do not write any query. It's all a drag and drop and select from the drop down. That's how you create a query here. So let's go ahead and create a work item. So you can create work items from different places. First, we'll go ahead in a standard way, and then once you do the standard way, wherever you see new work item, you will come to know, okay, I can create from here as well. So this is a work items homepage, and you see in a many call. I mean, this is a dashboard basically. You see types, assigned to states. You will see all these things. First, let's create a work item. So let's click on work item, and then the first thing that I have to create is an epic. So let's create an epic. So some of you guys already know it as you've been working for different projects, but let's go with other people as well. So I will say first epic. This is my title, and you have many different fields that to be used. I leave it unassigned because we will do it as part of our planning phase. So my title is first epic, and is a something you can say description, and then acceptance criteria means, these are the rules that you have to implement. Let us say, how do you say that this application is working? So these are the rules, right? He will say, okay, I will accept this application is working if my login functionality is working. So such kind of things, business rules basically. So the person whoever is creating the epic, not only the description, he has to put the acceptance criteria. This is how testers will test the application and developers will develop the application based on the business rules. Okay, this is very important, and then you have to put some start date and end dates when this epic has to be started. Let us say I'll keep my 26th as start date, and then end date as January 31st. These are my start dates and dates. And priority means, the person will be working on different items. What is the priority to him? You keep something, leave it like that. And then effort, you have to estimate, right? Basically this effort is not ours. Okay, in Scrum we call it as a story points, and these are defined by the project manager. So one story, some people say one story point equal to 1 day. Some people say one story point equal to 1 hour. Okay, these are decided by the project manager and the organization together if it is a bigger organization. So for the time being, don't worry whether this is an hour or day actually. I'll simply keep some, let us say, I'll think of it as an hours or days. Okay, I'll put some, let us say some 300 hours. This is effort. And what is the business value? Business value means this is for again the person's reporting purpose. Uh, the least number is least business, least value to the business. The biggest number is the most value to the business. Okay, and they define some policies, right? Basically, these policies are defined by you will have some delivery methodology teams or delivery excellence teams. They define it actually. How you say whether this is most valued or least valued. So don't bother about it. I'll just simply say 5. And then time critical. It is also the same thing. How critical it is. And then value area. This you need to know. Okay. The values will be two types. The epic can be of related to some business functionality. It can be related to some solution architecture, technical architecture, designs or something. You can define it. Again, this will help you in reporting. So we are filling many fields here because you want to track it and you want to generate reports for the better tracking mechanism by better notification to the senior management. So obviously we'll start with some business values. Right? This is how you do it. Okay. Now I created one epic. So guys, you also need to remember these symbols. Epic logo is Chrome actually. Okay. So let's not look into this related work. This is also important, but first we'll create some work items and get into those areas. Okay, let's create save. Let click on save. Okay, now an epic is being created. Back to work items. The epic is being created, and all these fields are. This is a new state, and area path is ATI in demo because this is the default area that's been created when I created Azure DevOps project. Now, what's the next thing? I have to go and create a feature. Okay, under this epic. Again, you go and right now I'm not linking because all these have to be in parent-child relationships. Right now I'm just creating individually, and I will show you how to link it. So you can link it in different ways. So one, create it individually and link with the properties. Or when you are creating itself, you associate with the parent and child. Like that it works. So let's go ahead and create a feature. So again, I will say first.
Hello, Purna. Sorry for interrupt you.
Yeah.
So actually, where we see that whether this project is Scrum or means normal project, where we can see that project setting something you showed me, right?
Yes, yes. So when you are creating the project, you selected the template, right? If you don't remember, let us say I did not remember today. So what I did, you go to the project settings at the bottom of this pan, left hand side. You have the project settings. Just click it, and then you have this overview, right? By default, it will go there. Here you see the process. Okay. This is using Scrum. This is how
Okay.
you.
Now, if we want to change it, means then it is not possible.
It's not possible. You see, this is grayed out because let us say just now we started. Okay, you can let us say they give the feasibility to change it, but after 1 month, if you want to try it, what happens? The entire details will be corrupted. So that's why you cannot change it actually. Think about after over a period of time, 1 month or 2 months you spent, and your code is there, your work items there, your statuses are there. If we change that template, everything will be corrupted. You don't know what went wrong, what is there, where, etc. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's go to boards, work items. So I created this first feature, right? Let's go and edit this again. So you add some description. I'm just not adding because this is very standard and acceptance criteria. And I'm not changing any areas or iterations. We already talked about it. We do it as part of planning. And when I created this feature, the reason is a new feature and then state is new. And then let's put only some dates here. Okay, I'll keep this date as 30th December and then target date as let us say 10th, sorry, not the 10th December, 10th January, 7th January. It went to Feb. It went to Feb actually. Let's go to Jan. Okay, it's not changed. It went to Feb again. Okay, let's skip this. Okay, so likewise I can give and you can fill these values as well. I'm just not filling because this is just a data entry kind of stuff. Let's save it. Let's go back to my work items. Let's create one more work item because we want to see the parent child, right? Let's create one more thing, feature. I would say second feature. That's it. I leave all these areas as it is, and then I can take the start date at least, and then I'll keep 6th, and then target date as again I'll keep the same 10th January. That's okay. And then I'm not putting any efforts here. We will see it later, and then save. Because think of it as a product owner creating the items. He can enter the estimates only once he has some discussions with the managers or the team members. So that's why I'm just leaving as it is. And then so I created epic and features, and then I'll create some product backlog item, which is a child of feature basically. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create a product backlog item. First product backlog, and I'm just putting feature one just for to remember actually. I'm not filling any other values. Just go ahead and save. Everything will be having the same set of values except one or two fields difference. Okay, and then go back and then create a task as well, which is the least level where a developer will take and work on it actually. So go ahead and create a task, and then say first task, and then I'll say product backlog. Okay, product backlog 1. I'm not changing anything here. That's it. I created. Now I have epics, features, and product backlog item and task actually. Now we will go and see how to establish a relationship between these areas. So one way is you just open epic. I'm starting there. Okay, you can start from anywhere because you can add a parent or you can add a child as well. So we filled all these different values, right? Acceptance criteria, description, and everything. And in the similar way, on the right hand side, you see at the bottom related work actually. So you go ahead and click on add link, and then I just want to associate this with a feature actually. That means this is already existed. The other way we can create is, if you want to create a new feature, you can open Epic and you click on new item and select the feature. Okay, right now since I already have existing feature, I just click on existing item, and you see you are adding a link from first Epic. This is my Epic, and the link type is child, and then you don't need to remember all the things actually. This work, it will automatically gives you that are available in your work items or product backlog actually. So I just go ahead and select uh, where, where is feature, first feature. Okay, and then you can write some comment or just you leave it actually. So now an epic is associated with a child called feature. Okay, and then just save it. So this is how you create a parent child in the similar way. So I will show you that tree structure actually. Not here, it will be appearing in a different place. I will show you that tree structure, you can expand and see the child items. Okay, now an epic is associated with the first feature. Now I want to associate my product backlog, first product backlog with the first feature. Now we will go in a different way actually. Okay, now I opened a parent and added a child as well. Now I open a child and add a parent. So you covered both the scenarios. Okay, now I open this product backlog feature one and I want to add it to a parent. Okay, that is a feature one. Just open it and then again you have a section called related work here. Just click on it and existing item. I already have a parent. So instead of child, I will add a parent actually. So just go ahead and select parent. So there are many things here. Let us say you see a duplicate or a duplicate of etc. Right? Because let us say you are having thousands of requirements or hundreds of requirements. A product owner, what he does, he will go on one feature today, and after 2 days he will create another feature. But because of some language issues or a different, people write English, right? There is always a possibility to re-enter the same requirement which are in a different modules. But when you are doing the sprint planning or some retrospection, you will come to this feature is created 2 times. So sometimes you cannot delete it, but you can make it a duplicate. So people come to know this is a duplicate of some other feature. So it will not be a part of your sprint planning. So let's say I will select parent and then select the work item. And this is a product backlog item, right? I want to assign it to first feature. It has two words, you see, feature 2 colon first feature, because the feature 2, feature 3 is the order I created, and the right hand side feature 1, second feature, first feature is the title I given actually. So now you see, when I associated this product backlog item with feature, now the parent of this product backlog is first feature. Okay, then just save it actually. In the similar way, you can now you know how to add a parent or add a child to the existing work items. In the similar way, you will go ahead and do for the task as well. This is my first task, and I want to associate this with the product backlog one. That's why I just given the description like that. Now, again, you go to related work, click on add link. Since my child, now I am going to add this first task to product backlog. My parent already exists, so that's why I'm creating. Click on exist item. So by default, it given me parent because the last action was parent actually. Or even the task, right, doesn't have a child because task is the least level, so it has that intelligence as well. And then link type is parent, and then I'm going to associate this product, this task one to the product backlog one. Okay, this one. And then you simply say okay and then save. Now go back to work items. So I have see now, if you see, everything is changed here actually. Earlier it was having some different state. It is so we have a list of statuses and workflow statuses and workflows actually. I will show you. This is just a table which I did not define, right? It is there already in the documentation. I will just take it and show it to you. But you don't need to have it as well, because while we are looking into these different work items, it will be in the visualized manner. You will see it there. And for some complex engagement, they want to introduce their own workflow type as well. Let us say it might be having to do, in progress, and completed. Some people want to add one more status as well. Then that comes under custom development. So the any product, right, they gives you SDK. Developers can go ahead and create those work item types and import into your tools basically. It is there everywhere. So it depends on the requirement of your company. So that's how you create different work item types and make a parent-child relationships. Now what we have is a product backlog. Okay. Now the product owner now define the product backlog. Now it goes for the sprints actually. So now as part of your sprint planning, you prioritize the requirements. Let us say you have 1,000 requirements. Out of those 1,000 requirements, I'll take some 10 requirements. And after the prioritization by the product owner, now the project manager and the developers or testers, they will go ahead and take the features. Let us say I'm very good at creating a UI. Then I take the work items related to UI. So this is a choice of the people when you are working in a Scrum. So this is how sprint planning works. But of course, that's a theory. But you have to go and uh, yes, you have to go and create, task boards, etc., etc. So we will do all those things. We will look into all these things, backlogs, sprints, and everything actually. Okay, and we create some teams as well again. Okay, and you will see the task boards, and we will see the capacity. All these things will be taken care in the next session. I will stop it for today. So now we see how to create a work items, and then parent child relationships, and then some properties in the DevOps project. So it takes another two classes to close the Azure boards, because you don't have much to learn here, but you need to know how the burn down charts will be created, and how the velocity charts will be created. What, as a DevOps engineer, what you can do uh, to make those charts available. You will not create. Those charts are available, but you need to ensure that they are becoming available to the end users. Those things we see. So that's it for today, guys. Now open for question and answers.
Purnachandra.
Yeah, Mohammed.
Actually, I am new to this class. Today only I joined. So when the batch was started?
So it is. This is the third class. So
Third class.
yeah, obviously, I mean, first one class is a kind of demo. We talked about fundamentals of Azure Cloud, and we also had some introduction about Azure DevOps. How to start, where to start, such kind of things, and some features. And yesterday it was all about creating Azure DevOps organizations and projects. And today we actually got into this Azure DevOps features. The first feature is Azure Boards, which is for project planning and execution.
Shall I continue for next sessions? Or?
Yes, yes, it will continue for another two sessions.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. So we are going in sequence because planning and then coding, right? Once this is done, then we'll get into Azure repos, which is the coding part actually. So as per the software development life cycle, we have these features available, and we go in the same sequence. Any other questions?
Punna Niranjan here.
Yes, Niranjan. Yes, Niranjan.
Yeah, my question is, as a DevOps engineer, do we need to create all those things, or there are different teams will take care?
No, you are not creating. That's why, as I explained, you are not responsible for creating these work items. Okay, the product owner will create it, or project manager will create it, but you will be giving access to these different people. So you will give access to project manager or product owner to the Azure boards, and you will give them permissions to create or update. So you are only a facilitator here. You will give the permissions. You will not create these work
Okay,
items because you know we're related to this. So think of
got
yourself
it.
as an administrator. Let us say some infrastructure guy gives you some server, or some infrastructure guy gives you your laptop or desktop, and give you some admin privileges, etc. Think of you in that perspective when you are thinking about Azure boards.
Okay.
So you need to know all these things. That's the reason we are covering everything. Okay. Some of
Yeah,
them
Punna.
you will be doing hands-on. Some of them you will be giving permissions. Yeah, any other questions, please?
So these boards are only visible to only this project, right? Not from other project.
No, you can't. So it depends on, let us say I'm an organization owner. I can see each and everything in my organization because my organization contains n number of projects. I can see it. So that's where you go to the project settings and restrict the permissions. Which users have to have what access.
So how do you do that?
So you can go to the project settings. Okay. So if it is related to projects, you have to go to the project settings. If it is related to the organization, you have to go to the organization. It's very consistent manner. And then everywhere you see the same set of menu basically, be it organization, be it project. And you see first you have this permit, you have the teams, and then you have the permissions. So you have the default groups and you can create your own group as well. Let us say custom groups or something. Okay. And you can add users to these different groups.
So my question is like, let's say I have a user here, and there is no restriction like acting as an admin for tickets that are created. Let's say everyone can go and delete it.
Yeah, you should not be.
So how to restrict that?
So you have you have to create reader. So for every CRUD operation, right? CRUD means create, read, update, delete, right? You have the similar activities available here. All you need to do is, okay, you thought of it, right? This guy should not be using, should not be able to delete something, which is obviously a read test. Just go and look for that. I mean, this all comes under permissions. So these guys made it in a very consistent way. So you have to add it to the readers, and then again in the reader as well, you can restrict, what he can view actually. So should he view only the boards? Should he view even pipelines? You can have those kind of restrictions, and you can create your own groups as well like this. Okay, and you see the members available here. So right now, and the build administrators, I did not add any other person, so that's why it is 0. And you have the people here contributors because I added myself and other item as well. So, and you see somewhere you have this, you can see the names actually. You see, so it is available there itself. So people on online, yeah.
Hello,
Yeah, Jagdish.
sir. Is this Azure DevOps is for only Microsoft applications, or can we use it for Linux applications also
Okay,
in
now,
real-time environment?
Yeah. So, okay.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, we explained it as part of the demo actually. So Azure DevOps is not just for .NET. It supports various languages. You name it. Let us say it supports Java, it supports .NET, supports Python, Perl, Node.js. There are many programming languages it supports. From the server side, it supports Linux, it supports Mac, it supports Windows. All the different
Okay.
options. So this is
Yeah. So
one
in
place.
organizations,
Yeah, go ahead.
so in organizations, people are using AWS mostly, right, sir?
No, no,
So
no.
many organizations,
You mean to say DevOps or infrastructure?
DevOps
So,
purpose.
okay, okay. If you come to the DevOps tools, right? Jenkins is the mostly widely
Okay.
used now, and the next place is going to Azure DevOps, and you have the Bamboo as well. And AWS is standing at low actually. Very few people use AWS DevOps. You can check it online, so you can check the reports. Reports you can see from Gartner. Basically,
Okay.
Gartner gives you all these statistics. We don't know, right?
Okay.
We only know our and our friends. Yes, I have another couple
Okay,
of
sir.
minutes for question and answers. So tomorrow there is no session because it is a Christmas holiday for the institute, and we will meet on Thursday.
Hello, sir. One more thought. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
So here in members is there, right? 316012 something.
Correct.
So those are, I think those are not means your colleagues. Means you are not added that those are different
No.
thing, I think, but because here
Okay.
I didn't create, but for me also it is showing like 1155 or something is showing here.
Okay, you see, this is the user Purnachandra.k I added to the project, and you see 8 a.m. So when you create a project, right? I already told you default teams will be created, and the access will be given to them. This is automatic. So you have default teams and users, and also the persons who you are added. This 8 a.m. demo team is being created automatically when I created the project. And then dev team, I created this team yesterday. And then Purnachandrarao.k, I added this user to my project. That's why it is showing all this list of people here. So you can open these things and see it actually. Then you will realize when you, I mean, who are being added and automatically or manually.
So if you want to add any particular user in the data, directly open the regex and you can
Yeah, these are first either you can create a group and add users or groups to that group, or you first have a user and add it to the existing group, or create a group and add existing users to the group. It's as per your convenience, because you will have all the scenarios, right? Not only creation and adding. Okay, guys. Thank you very much for your time. We'll again meet on Thursday morning the same time. If you have any questions, please do drop an email, or you can note it down and ask me on Thursday morning. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Have a good day. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to all.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to all. Thank you.